Today is the 6th. Let's put that in my pocket. I haven't tested out the last one I did. Just putting this microphone in my breast pocket. But I don't see why it wouldn't work. Today's the 6th, it's a Sunday. Flo is finally off on a long awaited and long looked forward to for her yoga workshop on the west coast of France. And me, I'm half expecting a call from the Manleys, because yesterday they brought their dog Sia to stay with me because Juliet was having a party and the music was going to be loud. And incidentally, I kept saying to Mick, Flo's gone to the east coast of France, the east coast to do the yoga. And Mick said, surely you mean the west coast? No, the east coast. Oh yeah, the west coast. And I'm just thinking about that, and I can't get over how stupid that is. It's like there's a dyslexia, like with the left and the right. I mean, how could I possibly think that Flo was going to the east coast? If I look at a map of Ireland, I know where the fucking west is. You know what I mean? It's like it's so ingrained in me, the west of Ireland. And so then you just literally move across on the world map, and next you have England, and then you have France, and it's the same fucking thing. It's the west of France, and somehow I kept saying the east. And it kind of goes beyond stupid. It just makes me wonder, what kind of screw is loose, or what kind of wiring is not working in my mind, in my brain, you know, that I could, it's, you know, sometimes, I think it was Jung used to say, there's a trickster personality within us. And it's someone who just likes to take the piss out of ourselves. It's too complicated to even get into now. Because I don't know why a part of you would be against you, but well, who knows, in the great mystery of the psyche. And this trickster was someone who would purposefully cause us to make stupid mistakes, like perhaps, maybe it's not the same as a Freudian slip, but just would make us look foolish. Of course, to me that adds the question, oh my God, what's going on there then? Who's in control? Is there if there's somebody there trying to make us look stupid, my God, that's enough to drive a person paranoid, you know. Anyway, so I took Sia from Mick and Martine. They drove over with the dog, and I thought, well, I know this is not going to be too easy, but hopefully Sia will just be reasonably quiet, and they'll just play in the garden and the other dogs will stay away. And it wasn't like that. Sia didn't settle down. Hosanna came around. Sia went barking and running after Jocelyn, who got quite the fright, and that happened twice. And then when I brought Sia into the flat, she was crying to get back out. And then outside in the garden, she was crying to get back out of the garden, and I don't know if she wanted to go to the loo, and it just put me in a state of high kind of anxiety the whole time. And in the end, I called Flo, and I felt really bad for calling Flo as well, because she's supposed to be on holiday and away from all this, and I really didn't want to be bothering her with all this, you know. But in the end, and I did ask, because I said, maybe I could call Juliet and tell her this isn't working out very well. And so she did give me Juliet's mobile number. This is kind of the flip side of the trickster thing, because I did all this without really thinking about it. I went on about Juliet and stuff, and at the time I don't really think it was a major option. I just kind of brought it up. And then Flo sent me the number, and again, at the time I don't think I was going to get to the point of actually having to call her. But then we went outside again, and the dog barked again at Jocelyn, and Hosanna came around, and Rita started barking, and I just thought to myself, I'm just not fucking doing this for the rest of the day. I'm not gonna babysit this fucking dog all night and probably end up not sleeping at all and continually worrying about how the dog feels. And so I called Juliet, who luckily for me is pretty good with the English. And I just said, I'm sorry, Juliet, the dog is going mad with the neighbors here. She's not happy. I'm going to have to bring her back. Which I did. And a bit like the Colin Wilson book where he was telling a story about the feeling you get when your car doesn't start or something, and then you do something or you just wait a minute and then it starts, and there's this wave of relief that can actually take you from a bad mood and put you into a good mood. And I had such a moment after I left the dog back. I came back and I took Tuco for a walk, and I just felt this great sense of relief that was fucking done. That I wasn't going to have to worry about that dog for the rest of the day. Now, Mick and Martine are coming back sometime this afternoon. I'm not sure if they've contacted Juliet yet. Kind of hoping they have, and I'm hoping she's told them. Now the dog's back here, by the way. So they don't call around to me, because they might do, but of course I'm going to be out. And I may walk around the lake today. I may go the long way back, so I may be out for some time. So if they come and I'm not there, they'll probably call me. I got my phone ready. And I'm not really looking forward to, because God, there's a hell of a lot of noise coming from one of the houses over here. Party. Someone's shouting. I don't know why I'm a bit, again, it's probably what the overreaction is a very good term to describe it. I'm overreacting probably, but I think I have this feeling, which might be ridiculous, that they'll be pissed off. And then Mick will be like, after all the times we looked after his dog, he couldn't look after our dog for one night. Something like that. Or maybe they'll just be like, it'll be something that just won't resonate with them at all, and they'll just be like, well, at least he tried and the dog's back now, it's fine. It might not be something that causes any kind of a thought. But by the way I'm going on about here, you can see how a specific, easily stressed person I am. I haven't heard people talk about they become more and more like their dad as they get older. I feel I'm becoming more and more like my mother as I get older, because I kept picturing her in the same situation. And I could visualize her, and I could visualize everything going through her head, because I was thinking, that's exactly the way I am now. I've got this from my mother. And it's funny, it's a built-in psychology, it's a built-in anxiety, over the top stress. And I know, and this is This is why I'm an alcoholic, because I know with a certain amount of alcohol, all that stuff disappears. And I become very relaxed, and I become more like what I'd kind of say maybe a normal person. I don't know if there's such a thing. Let's say more like flow, you know, hey, it's just a dog, it's not a big deal. You're looking after a dog, the dog's not that settled, so what? Let the dog out. It's understandable why a person like me would become an alcoholic, because the sensation of just the de-stressing, of the lack of the inhibitions, of the feeling of strength that comes with that, it's just so incredibly empowering and relaxing. You know, you just don't take life so seriously, and everything is, you know, not so important. But of course I can't really drink anymore. So anyway, the dog went. I drove the dog back in the car. And like I was saying earlier, I was so pleased that that was done. Then I did lamb. And later on in the evening, couldn't get into my Transport Fever game. I watched a video about a guy who'd been in prison for 11 years. And he was out now, and he was making videos about the transition from prison life to civilian life. And I found him very interesting. He was saying when you get outside, you gotta get a job. And you have to have some transport to go from place to place to look for work. He said these two things are key. And although he's making videos about the difficulties with integration from the prison life to the civilian life, because they're used to routines and structure, I could easily relate to it myself, because where I am here, I feel the same difficulties with all the things he was talking about. The difficulties with getting a job, or the difficulties with getting a car, or moving around, or whatever. Oh, what's this? I see a little dog in front of me. I think he may be the little white dog that's been... I pass him every day. Just wondering how he got out of his garden. He's normally very well locked up. The little fella's free. Oh, he's having a poo. What are you doing out, little fella? Did you escape? Did you escape? Anyway, that by the end of the night, because of this prison thing, I ended up watching a trial sequence with the serial killer. Can't remember his name. They call him BLT. They call him bound, tortured. No. BLT. Anyway, he was a serial killer, killed lots and lots of women. And it was disturbing and terrifying how somebody could go into somebody's house, stalk them, know exactly where they lived, what they did for a living, when they were going to be home. And then he'd wait for them, and if it was women, he'd wait for them to be alone. And because of his demeanour of kind of calmness, because when he was talking about his crimes, he was honestly like a guy who was telling you what he did, what he bought while he was shopping. He had no empathy. And so he would get the victims to, he'd kind of tell them, I've got this sexual problem and I need to do a sexual act on you, or I want to take pictures of you, so I want you to just tie yourself up, and I want you to take your clothes off, and I'm going to tie you up, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to go and you can call the police. I guess he was so calm, and the people were so terrified that they allowed him to tie him up, and it wasn't all just women. And of course, he killed them all then. Strangled most of them. So we're in the comments, and a lot of people were saying what I was thinking. And they were saying, my God, if anybody ever gets into your house like that, the last thing you want to ever do is let them tie you up. Because you never know what they're going to do. They may say, we just need to tie you up and then we're going to rob you and go. And it's like, it might be what you see in the movies, you know. You see an old cowboy movie and they tie somebody up and they rob the safe. But in reality, you don't know the people you're dealing with. And after they tie you up, they may actually not be in the house to rob anything at all. They may be there to kill you. They may be there to do something else. Like this guy, I'm sure he said to some of the victims, I'm just going to rob your place, but I need to tie you up first. And then I'm going to rob you and I'm going to go. And the person would be shocked and terrified, and they would probably be thinking, well, I better do what he says and let him rob the place and get out as quick as possible, and you know. But once he had you tied up, you were fucked. And so the comments were, never let anybody tie you up. Never let anybody get you into a car. You know, it would be better to struggle and get killed in the goddamn fight than to be incapacitated. You know, it might sounds brutally, terrifyingly depressing, but it might be better to be killed in the struggle than to be taken somewhere else, tied up, and, well, God knows what people will do to you. Some people like inflicting pain on others, torture. And so that was kind of what I came away with it. If anybody ever came into my house, it would be best to turn into as mad a person as you could. And if you could grab any kind of a weapon, a knife, anything, and go fucking crazy. And if that person is really big, well, it may be the last thing you do, but it may be better you do that than wait for what else is going to happen. Anyway, obviously these minutes. I have to stop when I pass people and stuff because I've got the thing in my pocket and it really looks like I'm talking to myself. Which I am, but if you've, I don't know, it just looks odd. So I did this, I played some chess, I watched that guy, I played some chess, and I went to bed and I watched lots of little TikTok videos about the travelers the travelling community in England and Ireland, and those call-out videos they do, where they introduce themselves. I'm Tommy McDoherty. I'm one of the Dohertys from Limerick or Maynooth or whatever. I'm one of the Dohertys. Now Paul Flynn, you were seen telling things about me, saying things about me on TikTok. Well, I'm telling you now, I will go anywhere, anytime to fight you. Anywhere at all, you name the place, I'll go and fight you. And don't be like your brother Pat, who I challenged him and he went off fighting, the fucking cowardly bastard. The fucking culture wouldn't fight me. But you come, I'll go to fucking beat you. I'll beat you and beat you for sport. And I'm going to bite off your nose. That's what one guy said. I'm going to bite off your nose. Oh, Jesus. Terrible, ugly, violent looking men. And there was a woman, young woman, her face was all black and blue. Eye closed, purple. I'd say she had maybe a fractured jaw. Another guy's face was all cut. And I'm not sure it does my psyche any good to be watching these things, but you just start thinking about, my God, how many awful people are there in the world? And then I thought, if these guys had some kind of code, but like I said, they'd just rob you. But if they just fought amongst each other, and I kind of had a romantic notion, if I was friendly with a few of these people and they liked me because they just found me a decent person, and I don't know, let's say I was working in a video shop or something, or I was in the betting office, and I treated them good, and whatever, would you be safe with these very ugly, violent men if you were kind of minding your own business? Is it really specific cases that come along and maybe they're not really as bad with civilians, although it's hard to believe that. Kind of, you get the feeling they'd jump on anyone. So that was depressing. So many things on YouTube. It's depressing. In the end, it made me feel very happy where I was. I just thought, I'm so happy to be here in this kind of middle of nowhere in France, in this small town, and an even smaller Hameau. Where I don't see Irish people like that, travellers or drunk people. This morning on the radio there was a guy, an American guy. He'd been studying the effect of an optimistic mindset on the health of an individual, and he'd been studying it and doing all the statistics for 20 years. It's real typical American stuff, I've written books on it, and everything has acronyms. I think that's the way you say everything, it spells a word, and each letter of the word is something you have to remember, and he had so many acronyms for everything that you'd need to be a genius to remember all of these things. Positive thinking and optimism, and don't just compliment your wife or your husband on something. Do constructive complementary awareness technique. Americans love bullet points and headings and subheadings and acronyms. And before you go to bed at night, write out 3 things that went well for you during the day and why. Keep a diary of this, and that's, you'll be engaged in positive literary adjustment, whatever. And I'm not sure why he seemed to think it was an astounding discovery to think that people that were very optimistic seemed to be more healthy, and live longer than miserable bastards. I don't understand why exactly that would be a discovery. But it doesn't really click with me. He gave an example of something. If something wonderful happens to your wife, and the way you should compliment her, something wonderful happens, and in my mind I'm thinking of Flo, and I'm thinking she has some spiritual promotion. She comes back and she's transformed and changed, and her outlook is positive, and she's just different. Her eyes are different. The Connemara's not bothering you. And that's the kind of change I'd be thinking about in life. You know, with me it would be, I'd become fearless. I'd become like as if I were drunk, but I'm not. I'd become transformed and brave and adjusted and an adult. You know, that's a life-changing transformation. And then this guy gives an example, and he said, imagine your wife gets a pay rise. I think I kind of switched the radio off at that point. That's his notion of kind of very important, life-changing, wonderful thing that you have to compliment your wife, and he had all the names and the bullet points and the acronyms for what you should do in this instance. A pay rise. Make sure you tell your wife that she deserves the pay rise, and that she should now go on and teach other people how to get a pay rise in the clerical department. Compared to the stuff I was thinking, it's like you just think that's the shallowest thing I've ever heard. I can't latch on to any of these things. And they don't leave me uninterested. They really just bring out a sense of anger at the lack of art. I'm sure the art is there somewhere, but my God, it's so hard to find, because, like Nietzsche predicted 100 years ago, the mainstream and main thought has been dumbing down for a century. You know, the guy I was listening to that had been released from prison, served 11 years. There's somehow more depth in him and what he was saying than in all of the stuff this guy was talking about, because he just got the feeling this guy from prison has lived some things. It was like when I heard Philip Seymour Hoffman talk about addiction and drugs and stuff. There's something in those characters that transmit the cure, that just go beyond the bullshit and the bullet points and the acronyms, and they say a sentence and you immediately relate to it. They give an example and you immediately, you're there and you know exactly what that means. Like I said earlier, there's something about Nietzsche. I'll have to go back to the Science Gazette, whatever. There's something about reading stuff when he talks about lifting your spirits, lifting your soul, the complications with cause and effect, and it's so high and wonderful, and I don't know. I have to go back to that word magic again. Compared to just about all of the academics in the American and now European world, with their fucking headers and subheaders and bullet points and visualization of, and you too can get the best career that you can get, and you too can earn lots of money by following this 30-day plan, as if getting money is in any shape or form. I mean, how is that anywhere near the prime objective of life? I know it's useful money, but Jesus Christ, there's so much more. How does one get inspired and motivated? How does one connect with the energies that we all had as children? How does one become severely and constructively positive about an unknown future? And how does one find a book which is going to cause some transforming effect in you, but it's going to do it in a wonderfully poetic, lofty, literary, scholarly, saintly way, where the person writing the book will have studied literature from right down through the ages. He'll have studied the history of mankind right back to the beginning. And he'll know about all these things, and he'll be able to communicate in a tremendous, original way. When I wrote Between Ourselves, it was meant to be something like that, you know. I gave the kind of the boring details of the alcoholism, but then it was always followed up by these slight flights of fancy where a character would be invented, and the story of the character was somehow meant to cause an uplift in some kind of a magic way. Not, you know, every page wasn't filled with headings and subheadings. 7 points to be followed on each day, and a 30-day program, and 20 steps and 14 steps. Half a dozens to think about when you're getting out of bed, and the 5 pints you must write down when you wash your teeth. Fuck. Yeah. I have to find my own inspiration. Now, there is this legend of the Muse. I don't know if it's a Greek tradition or if it goes from somewhere else. But I'd love the idea that I could start to write something and it would inspire myself. You know, that kind of free flow writing. That something within me, something higher than my normal state, would communicate to me in a poetic way and inspire me. Words. Or perhaps it'll be me overreaching again. Looking for some talent I don't have. Like all the other times. So I'm walking past, just about now, walking past the Contact Carrefour, which is closed, of course. It's Sunday. It's closed. town looks, well, besides the traffic, pretty deserted. Except for those 3 young guys sitting on the bench, listening to music. In some ways, those guys, they're probably 17, 16. They're just like I was when I was sitting on the wall with Eamon Dooley and Kieran Egan. But the difference nowadays is that everybody's staring into a screen. You just wonder how different it is. Is there a real lack of communication nowadays? A lack of expression of how people feel? I know that wasn't something that came normally anyway to adolescence. It takes a certain kind of courage to explain to your friend how you're feeling if you're not feeling too good. Or to say you're scared of something or anxious about something. Because you don't really want to show much weakness when you're an adolescent. But it was different for us when we talked. We'd talk about music, maybe movies. And I guess we laughed a lot more because we were continually joking about things. And I'm wondering if we were all young now, would we all go sit on the wall and then all stare at our phones? Would my childhood adolescence be continually making videos of the guys, maybe trying to do some acting? So Flo is gone for a week. I Bob in and out freely, and then this morning I walked to go around 7, and I'll walk him tonight. And sleep is a bizarre thing. I went to bed at 3, I went to bed earlier actually, maybe 1:30. But I didn't sleep for about an hour or 2. And then I woke up at about 4, I guess, and then I woke up at 6, and I woke up at 7, and I got up at 7 and walked the dog and had a tea. And went back to sleep maybe an hour or 2 later. I woke up again, and then eventually managed to stay, close the bedroom door, stop Tuco walking around. And I managed to stay there till midday. I have a feeling it's going to be like that all week.
Et voilà, et après on a dû les parce qu'après du coup c'est bien à toi les filles sont allés au tennis. Nous on a dû les retrouver au tennis. Donc vas-y on va se faire rêver, on va se faire le champ. Vas-y Antoine, le vidéo a été craqué. On va faire de la merde. On était là avec nos places, il y avait une voiture plus placée, on cavalait. Incroyable.
Talk with the 2 girls behind me. I've just gone up the steps, and now entering the square. Which is 3:15. Every now and again my mind flashes on whether the Manleys will call me or not. I'm kind of embarrassed to tell them about Sia. I'm hoping they don't need to contact me. I'm hoping that they just go directly home. They realize the dog is there and then they don't have to talk to me at all. And I don't have to explain anything. That's the kind of problem I have with dealing with anybody. It was actually the guy doing his prison stuff. He had the same problem with people. That's what I found kind of interesting as well. He liked being in a small space. He liked being in a small space, and he just struggled with people. Even people that were nice to him, he just felt uncomfortable. It's kind of understandable that I would relate to that. Now I'm going to turn the heating on here, which is Flo would be, well, she'd be absolutely incensed by such a terrible, stupid thing to do. Let's see, 50s and 20s. So that was 42 minutes. 42 minutes of exciting stuff. Not. You know what is nice? I just walked into the kitchen and I'd kind of forgotten just for a second all the cleaning I did, and it is nice to see such a clean looking floor. And it's nice to open the fridge and see such a clean looking, well, the door, the size of the fridge. And it's nice to see that the freezer is still on, the light's on. And the area with the crepe is nice. You can put your hand on it and it's nice. It's not greasy or sticky. That's all good stuff. I shall sign off for now. Because I'm on my own and I may go walking a long way back, there may be, who knows, there may be lots of audio files to come, because I'm not feeling the best, and these things have a way of dislodging the depression in a sense. It's kind of like, because I know I'm not just talking to myself, I'm saving the stuff, so there's a different dynamic to it. It's a bit like therapy. And who knows, maybe one day, I keep thinking in 100 years, this is what it's just a wonderful thing to consider, that in 100 years somebody stumbles across the YouTube channel, because let's say things keep going, you know, YouTube is still there, just like you can still listen to radio shows from 100 years ago. we can see old movies from 100 years ago. They're still there. So perhaps YouTube and these things will remain, and maybe somebody in 100 years' time, the year 2120, God, hard even to say it. Hello, 2120. You there in 2120. I'm speaking to you from 2021. So you're 100 years ahead of me. And God alone knows what things are like up there. Everything feels very modern and with it here at the moment. I'm sure if you're looking back, you'll be looking back at a sense of nostalgia at this time, thinking, oh, it was so simple back then. I wished I'd lived back then. Just like if I look back in my past, I have the same feeling, imagine going to a library when there was no computers. Anyway, you in 2020, 2120. If I know anything about the human condition, you'll all be struggling with the same stuff as I'm struggling with. Because some things don't change, and the development of the psyche is something that's very slow, if existent at all, in men and women. It's not something that gets the front page of anything, really. We're all obsessed these days with technology and cryptocurrencies. I wonder what you guys in the future will be obsessed with.